Hello, welcome to Health and Care. I'm Dr. Adam Fields. I'm a chiropractor. Last time we got to speak with Dr. Don Clum. It was amazing. He talked about insulin magnifiers, things that increase insulin in our lives that decrease weight loss. Well, there's another concept. There's a concept of food is medicine. And we all think that. We've thought that. We've heard that before. It may be even been Hippocrates. But what about the absence of food? Could the absence of food be medicine? Could fasting be medicine? We are here to go granular on fasting. And I am excited to do that with Dr. Don Clum. Hello, Dr. Clum. Great to see you.
Hey, Dr. Fields, great to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Right on. So you have an interesting view on fasting. I mean, the big fad right now is intermittent fasting. Everybody's doing it. I have people coming in my office every day going, yeah, this is what I do. This is all I do. I do intermittent fasting every day. But you have a different view on it. You like it occasionally, right? But you're more a bigger faster, perhaps.
Yeah, we got to kind of define our terms, right? Modern day intermittent fasting is basically what I consider an excuse to skip breakfast and think you're doing something healthy,
Mm.
right? I'm old school that way. Maybe I'm a little grouchy because intermittent fasting in the traditional fasting world where I was trained and raised in this is you do a full day or more multiple times in a quarter to a year over time, and you plan them
Hmm.
out. That
Hmm.
makes it intermittent, not every day, not hours during the day, not even a 24-hour dinner to dinner. That's just meal timing, meal spacing, something else, but it wasn't considered fasting. And now people want to jump on and say they're fasting and they're basically just skipping breakfast and pushing everything back. And I do a whole series on what's called the dark side of intermittent fasting, where that model can make you sick, make you gain weight, keep weight on you, and cause metabolic dysfunction.
So the dark side of intermittent fasting, you like fasting like if someone does a 3-day fast every two months or something like that. That's more what you
Eventually,
call intermittent fasting.
absolutely. I believe in planning it out. There's 4 phases to a complete fasting cycle, and we can go through them today. There's the prep and planning, there's the support, there's the fast itself, and then there is the reinforcement after.
The
Right? Those are
reinforcement. In
the four
fact,
phases.
those
That
four
comes back to why
phases,
you're fasting.
they're so valuable, right? And you've planned them out. You've created some things. In fact, we're gonna have an incredible conversation here, but we can't give that all. We'd be here for hours and hours. So we actually, to tell you all, we have a link below in the description where you're going to be able to get a copy of these 4 phases, so that you can learn how to enter into a fast. And we're going to talk about fasting today, but then you're also going to learn how to exit a fast, right? It's not like in and out on the way in and out on the way out. There's a methodical way to do it so your body gets the most out of it. So, what about fasting? Tell us about it.
Well, first, yeah, Dr. Fields and we're going to put together a document for you. It'll have a graphic step-by-step outline of what those 4 phases are, what you need, and give you some models, and also have some stuff in writing that will explain the reason why they're important. Because the truth is, if you're wanting to fast, I give you credit. First of all, the idea of going without food in our culture is terribly difficult for a lot of people, right? There's a lot of issues around that. But if you're even looking to do it, there's a way to do it right, and there's a way to not. If you want to get the most out of it, you set it up in a certain way. You hit all 4 phases. Otherwise, you can really do 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Some people actually can eliminate the benefit that they just earned by fasting and going through that with just one meal. So we don't want that. So paying attention to the 4 phases, respecting them, doing it right, following the guide that Dr. Fields and I will put together, you get in the link. It will help you do that.
I'm there. I mean, I was actually, when I was much younger, I did a lot of fasting, and I knew nothing about it. This is even before I was a chiropractor, and I ended up vomiting afterwards at times. I ended up not feeling good, and it's nice to have the knowledge now. You get a little older, you get a little knowledge. So intermittent fasting. Let's just dispel some of these grandiose thoughts about intermittent fasting, and then go into a more of a long-term fast and see what benefits there might be there.
Yeah, just like exercise, it's like building a muscle in your body, building a mechanism, building a path, rebuilding our pathway, I should say. It's already in us. We have to train it to come back and to be flexible. We call it metabolically flexible.
Mm.
Because when you don't fast at all, you just down regulate what they call down regulate. You turn that process down and it goes to sleep pretty much. So we have to wake it up, and we have to get it going. But once it's going, you get tremendous benefits from fasting. You turn on the natural process that's sitting there waiting for us in our body innately, right? The whole reason why we fast, let me go through that first. Why do you even want to fast? What is this all about? When you fast, you turn off the fed state of your body. When you're eating, you're in the fed state, makes sense. And that's a certain kind of mode of your body. And it's breaking everything down because you got food coming in. Think about it. You're eating, you're chewing, you're fed, break down, break down, break down. You break down muscle, you break down fat, you break down the food you eat, all that kind of stuff. It's in breakdown mode. You have to turn that fed state off, stop breaking down for long enough for the repair state to kick in. That's the opposite. We got fed and repair on a teeter-totter. One goes up, the other one goes down, one's on, one's off type of thing. Okay. And if you never get out of that fed state, you won't go into repair. And in the repair state is when we heal. In the repair state is when we build muscle. In repair state is when we actually can detoxify. You will not detoxify. You cannot detoxify in the fed state. It just doesn't happen. So the whole point is to get that muscle to go into that repair state as often as you want and for as long as you want, comfortably. You'll hear a lot of war stories about fasting. People say they can't do it. I hear it all the time. People sign up for my program. Oh, no, I can't do that. I can't even go with skipping a snack. Never mind a meal. Never mind a day. Never mind whatever I'm asking them. But the reality is you can judge someone's metabolic health by how long they can go without eating comfortably.
What is metabolic health?
Metabolic health is our body runs. Our metabolism is a simple way to say it, but metabolism is how we use energy. It controls our inflammation. It controls our hormonal balance. All of it's tied together. It's basically the metabolic health is how all your systems work together, right? It's if it's good, you're healthy. If it's bad, you're not. That's that simple. And
Right.
then
Otherwise, you might have metabolic syndrome or something like that, where things are way
metabolic
out of balance.
syndrome. Yeah, they identified a syndrome. They called it They identified a syndrome years ago, and they called it Syndrome X because they didn't know what it was. They didn't know how it worked, but they know that was the cause of chronic disease. That's when things start to break down in our body and eventually produce autoimmune disease, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, all of it, and it accelerates our aging. Over time, they figured out that what it was, and so they called it metabolic syndrome. There's 5 factors to it, and they say medically, if you have 3 of those 5, you have metabolic syndrome. You can now expand it to say if you have any of these, or 2 or more, depending on which ones they are, you have insulin resistance. Because we know more, we're progressing that idea. It's insulin resistance that sets the stage for all chronic degenerative disease, every single one. You can't have it without insulin resistance. It just doesn't work that way. You can't gain weight without insulin on the scene. You can't struggle to lose weight without insulin on the scene, without an insulin problem. So it all relates back. And insulin is the master hormone of the body because it controls energy. It controls whether we live or die, whether we burn energy or store energy. It's fundamentally vitally important. And it's a bully. It's a bully on the playground. And when insulin is out of control, it terrorizes every other hormone, and all other hormone problems downstream can be thrown off just by insulin.
And you went into that so beautifully in our last podcast. It was incredible. So I started getting into the 72-hour fast. I started doing where I would do some electrolytes and occasionally a little bone broth, but you feel like you're cheating. And then I would do some dry brushing to keep, basically you have 5 organs of elimination. You've got the kidney, the liver, the skin, the lungs, and the colon. So, and then I would do some charcoal to start to digest my digestive system, the dry brushing to get the skin going. I would do some systemic enzymes to get the blood cleaned up a little bit. So in my thought is don't let the liver get backed up with toxins so you can still feel good during fasting. And then I come out of it, like you mentioned, aging and things like that. I come out of it just that even my vision, my thought process, the filing of information in my head, all these things just seem so much better after that 72-hour fast. And I would love if you, because I know you're so knowledgeable on this, is go through the mechanics of fasting. What happens at a certain amount of time and how that works and what's going on in the body, so that you can give us a visualization and a motivation to do something like a longer fast besides intermittent fasting.
Yeah, fantastic. You talked about all those different ways you're trying to aid the natural detoxification of your body, your liver, your skin, your kidneys, all of it, right? None of that will matter if you don't get into the repair state. It can't happen. You can scrub, you can take supplements, you can take pills, powders, potions, you can do all of this, but if you're not in the state of detoxification, you're not going to detoxify, no matter how hard we try, right? And so when we get in that state, we're in a deep repair state. To do that, you have to get out of the fed state. And the only way to do that is by not eating. You talked about breaking the fast, you feel like you're cheating, right? I define fasting by your objective. If you're just doing it to be able to say you're doing it for discipline or ego or a challenge or whatever it is, that's fine. But I define it by getting into the metabolic state of repair and staying there. Okay. To get there, you have to go through something called autophagy. You'll hear this a lot. It's a big word. All it means is detoxification. I make it very simple. You want to get into the detoxification state of your body. And to do that, you have to stop eating long enough for it to turn on and turn up.
So this
When it does,
autophagy, what this is, because this is exciting, right? So what's happening with autophagy is detoxification. What's happening with autophagy? What's actually
yeah,
going on?
autophagy is always on. You're always detoxifying on a lower level. Okay,
Mm,
it never stops. It's not on and off. It's like a dial. But when you turn it up, that's when amazing things can happen, and they can happen fast. You
mm,
hear about massive healing in short periods of time. You know this process is going on. There's no other way the body can do it,
hmm.
right? So just think about that. The deeper you're in, the longer, the more healing that can go on. And what
Getting out of
happens
that
is,
fed state increases autophagy, increases rapid detoxification and healing.
yeah, that's what healing is. Cells don't really heal. They don't repair. They die and new ones come and take their place. If the new ones are better than the old ones, we call it healing or regeneration.
Mm,
Now we know even brain cells can do that, heart cells, we know skin cells, every cell can do that, or they can at least build connections depending on what kind of cell they are. But that only happens if you go through autophagy. And what happens is you're eating, you're in the fed state, you're breaking everything down because you got a lot coming in. You got to break it down, send it places, and use it. As soon as that turns off, the body goes, "Oh, okay, we're not eating. We don't need to break down. We don't want to break down because we got nothing coming in." So it stops breaking down and it turns on the recycling system. Think of autophagy as a recycling system, and
mm.
that's what detoxification is recycling and elimination.
Right. So
Okay.
the body's like, it's going, okay, wait, we're not going to eat. I mean, eating is probably, I think it's one of our largest burner of calories, right? So if I'm not having to deal and hack through food, I can look around my body and say, okay, I can do some repair here. And so that's sort of going into away from that fed state is what you're saying, and then going into this detoxification and repair state on a much higher level.
Yeah, it doesn't have raw materials coming in, so it has to use what it has. So it
Hmm.
turns off the breakdown. You break down more muscle while you're eating than when you're fasting. People think that if I fast, I'm going to eat my muscle and I'm going to lose all my gains and all this kind of the gym guys really just think they're going to eat their muscle. People will say that. It does not happen. Fasting cannot make you break down muscle fiber and lose actual muscle in your body. It will preserve it.
Hmm.
Okay, muscle is gold. Your body is way smarter than we are, no matter what we think, and it will not touch it. It actually turns it off. It doesn't, and it actually raises your energy by up to 15%. It doesn't make you sluggish and slow. That's a reaction we can talk about. So you stop eating, you stop breaking down, and your body says, okay, preserve and then repair. So it's not breaking down, it's preserving everything, mainly first and all muscle and organs. And it starts to look around and it starts to pick up pieces that it can reuse. A piece that's not working over there, it's like grabbing a soda can and turning it into a safety pin, right? It's recycling, it's reusing.
Hmm.
It does that all over the body. Anything that's not working. Also, what it does is it identifies old cells that are staying on the job past their retirement age.
Hmm.
Right? These guys, God bless them. They love to work. They want to keep at their job. They don't want to retire, but it's time. The body doesn't kill them. It just reminds them. And then it turns that clock back on and then they retire or they
Hmm.
die, right?
Out
They
with the old,
retire.
in with the new.
And then what happens is all these cells and pieces are being broken down and recycling within the body because nothing's coming in because you're fasting. It sends a signal to the rest of the body through the immune system. Okay, we got this going on, this going on, this going on. When it's time, we need to replace them. The guy that retired and had his retirement party and his cigar and his watch, we need to get a new worker in there, right? So that's what happens. And only all those signaling pathways need to be activated in the repair state when you fast for long enough. Usually it's anywhere from 24 to 72 hours. There's no chart that'll tell you. Don't, if you see them, it's a guess. This is very individual. But once you go through it and you end your fast, you start to eat again, and you eat quality in the right way, which we can talk about, that new material that you just brought into your body goes right to making new cells and going to where your body needs it. And that's called stem cell production and regeneration. Okay?
So you're getting stem cells. You're getting stem cell production within the fast.
Yeah. Well, when you end the fast,
When you end
you're
the
getting signaling for new cells when you fast.
Mm.
If you break the fast correctly, you get the raw materials to make those stem cells and repopulate where you need it. So now you got that worker who just retired. They say, hey, we got a job opening here to make a brand new stem cell. These are baby cells. They're immature cells. They're not from a cell dividing. They're brand new from your bone marrow, from your spleen.
Mm-hmm.
This is the number one source in the human body we can make new stem cells after we're an adult. This is really, really valuable cells. And so they float around and they go to apply for the job. Say, I want that job. They go in. These are new cells. They don't know what they want to be when they grow up. They're called undifferentiated. They can be anything. Brain cell, heart cell, skin cell, liver cell, whatever it is. And
Right.
so they go and they apply for the job and they start to work. And if that environment is healthy and happy and they have good job satisfaction, they stay and they become a permanent part of that muscle.
Right. Just a little analogy also is like when I've sent people for stem cells where an MD will actually extract stem cells from the bone marrow and then do something with them. I don't know what they're actually doing, but then they inject them into a joint and it'll help actually cartilage regeneration and things like that. So basically these cells are going, okay, what can I heal? What can I heal? What can I heal? And they're just running around in the body. In fact, right before people die, I've heard they release a massive amount of stem cells because the body's going, here's my last ditch effort. Here's all my stem cells. Go for it. Right.
It's not good enough just to have them. Right. I'll tell you the difference. If you want to go into what the difference between injection and your natural production, we can. But just along these lines, if that cell is happy and stays on the job, you get new cells that repopulate. In the hospital environment, like that body's not ready for it or it's not prepared, then that stem cell will be recycled just like all the other broken cells. You can lose almost all your stem cells that you produce, which can be hard, and you burn those cells and you can release them if you do the phase of the cycle correctly.
Okay, we're going to do just a quick pause here. So we were talking about stem cells.
Yeah. So you're fasting, your body is using what it already has, and so it recycles the stuff it doesn't need to keep you going. Mm-hmm. Now you got a little bit of a deficit. You need to rebuild. And so when you eat again, you got that materials coming in, all the different quality materials, and it goes and rebuilds. And what that means is new cells go to your brain, to your heart, to your liver, to your skin, all these different places, and you regenerate lost tissue. That's what healing is, the replacement of old broken cells with new, young, enthusiastic cells ready on the job. And that is what they call anti-aging medically, because you can literally change your appearance because your skin, eyes, nails change dramatically. You can change your metabolic profile. People lose weight, and people, when they're good at this and they have the right program, they lose a lot of weight fast in a healthy way, more than we can explain why sometimes. And it's just everything starts to heal, change, more youthful experience because you got these brand new cells hanging around and becoming part of your body.
It's interesting you mentioned the skin because I had this wart forever. I mean, on my foot, just terrible. I mean, warts can just be around there, and it's just I never got rid of it. I have a podiatrist in one of my offices, and she took it out. She biopsied it. She did a little minor surgery and took the whole thing out, and it was truly a wart. And it came back. It came back big. It was like an alien that just birthed a greater wart. And this thing started to be the size of like between a nickel and a quarter. And it was a bummer. And I started. It was last year. I started fasting. This has been years. I started fasting, the 3-day fast, the 72-hour fast, and I was like, and then I put in some apple cider vinegar or something, and it was like this thing was gone. And and I keep still. I put my socks on and I feel, and I go, this is amazing, right? And so I think that fasting was a huge catalyst for exactly what you're saying. Get rid of the cells and replace it with new ones. And that's what happened. So for me, it was a big thing.
Well, that's how I got into fasting. I didn't plan on being the fasting guy. I wasn't into insulin or diabetes or any of this. I was a chiropractor seeing my patients, doing my thing like a chiropractor does. I was diagnosed with cancer twice. I was diagnosed with skin cancer on two separate occasions. I have a lot of moles on my body, and two different times on accident, I was diagnosed with skin cancer. I never got them biopsied. I didn't do any medical intervention or testing after that. So I can't confirm, but I had a medical doctor on my staff, and we had a Christmas party, I was in Costa Rica at the time, which is during the summer. So we're at the pool. He called me into his office on Monday and said, "Hey, I got to talk to you about that mole on your back. That's cancer." And he was very serious and it was a big deal. And the second time I had gotten a rash from a marine biotoxin from the water or from eating seafood or something like that. And I went to a dermatologist to see if it's contagious. I don't want to give it to my patients. It wasn't, but she said, by the way, that thing on your neck, that's got to come off immediately. That's skin cancer. Two separate times, about 2 years apart. Right. And so what I did is I knew I grew up in this world of health and healing. My dad's a chiropractor, 7 chiropractors in my family, 2 kids at chiropractic school right now. It's just kind of my thing. I never had taken a prescription drug in my life, nothing. And so it really was kind of a mental shock to me. How can this happen to me? It didn't matter. It was. So the only thing I knew to do was just tighten my ship. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't even tell my wife. I was like embarrassed that this could be happening to me. It's not supposed to happen to me, but it did. And I started tightening up my shift, and one thing led to another. I started changing my diet, lost weight. I did the things that we know to do and that you promote and that I promote. And then I kind of naturally got into fasting, and I went through different kinds. And eventually, the first time, that skin cancer got ugly, turned colors, and did some weird stuff, and eventually came to the surface, and it completely fell off.
That's amazing.
That was a big eye opener, right?
There's a
That
place
was a
up
big
in Northern California here. It's called True North, and it's a fasting center, and a lot of people go there with cancers, and they say they go through a pretty strict interview first to see if you're a candidate. There's medical doctors there, etc., and they actually have people fast, and supposedly your body isn't going to isn't going to eat itself. It'll end up eating the cancer. Is that kind of the philosophy
Yeah,
there?
well, cancer is not itself, right? Cancer is something that will be broken down first if it can. There's reasons why it can at certain stages. Dr. Thomas Seyfried, he wrote the medical textbook, Cancer as a Metabolic Condition, right? Big book, reads like a textbook. If you want to read it, go ahead, great stuff. But man, it's a textbook, right?
Mm-hmm.
In that, he says 1 7-day fast a year, water fast, will eliminate something like 97, 98% of cancers before they form,
Wow.
before they can even take hold, because you're recycling them before they can even be a cancer. They're nothing yet. But they are precancers. They would eventually go. So you can stop them before they even get a grip on becoming cancer.
Close the barn door
Because you
before the
turn on
horses
the
leave.
recycling and they'll get recycled. Because here's the deal. Do you know what cancer uses to be cancer? It uses all our junk. When you're in the fed state, you're constantly breaking down, constantly breaking down, constantly breaking down, and there's a lot of debris. You're not repairing, you're not recycling, you're not getting that garbage out. What happens in your house if you stop taking out the garbage or recycling?
Mm-hmm.
It builds up, right? You got kids, you know it'll build up, and eventually it's a mess and everyone's unhappy. Same thing in your body. It's
Mm-hmm.
called biomass. You're constantly breaking down, and you're not taking it out, it builds up. And then cancer starts to form unchecked. There's no recycling to stop it. And what does it use to build its fortress to protect itself? It
Biomass.
uses our junk. It goes into our junkyard and builds its fortress called a tumor.
Mm.
Right? It gets big enough and then gets strong enough that now we've got trouble. We can't get in there.
Right.
But it built itself from us.
It's not necessarily the seed, the cancer, the disease. It's the soil, the
It
environment,
is a
the
soil.
biomass.
There's no biomass because it's natural to have cells go do different things and mutate. That's part of what happens. Every cell, every non-living pathogen, like a virus, it's not alive. You can't kill it. It's just, all it is something that goes around and changes from person to person.
Mm-hmm.
That's just naturally the way it does it. There's nothing you can do about it. We're supposed to. It actually makes us stronger when it happens. So that process is normal. It's when it goes unchecked or when it's given on a platter, raw materials. Here you go. Here's some cement, brick, and mortar. Build yourself a castle.
Right.
Hang out for a while. That's
You
when it
order it
works.
up. You're like, okay, I'll take some cancer to go, please. Here's plenty of material for you. I've went to this restaurant. I overate, 6 days in a row. I was involved in stress activities, and you're like, okay, come on, it's time. Take me
Yeah,
over. Because if you had dead and dying and decaying material in your body, the body's cancer is going to come and say, okay, this guy's on his way out. Let's help that process, right? But if you're
exactly.
squeaky clean, right, and you're doing the fasting, I love that. One 7-day water fast per year.
Yeah,
You
and
at
so that's my goal. I do once you get through to a point where you're metabolically flexible, you've kind of gone through your training, you went through boot camp metabolically with fasting and everything, lifestyle. Then you can set up calendars. I teach and I set up calendars for a year at a time. And the pinnacle for me is always a 7-day fast once a year. And then I build the rest of my calendar around it. And so I'm always on what I call a progressive fasting rotation, doing something. That's why intermittent fasting can be such a problem because you do it every day. Body doesn't like constants. Constants will make it go crazy and break it down. It gets bored, right?
mm,
That's when problems arise. The body is an adaptation machine. That's what it does. That's what it's ready for. That's what it wants to do. And when it can't do it, it breaks down, right? So we start doing anything every day, it becomes less effective and it can harm us.
right. You got to
And
change
that's what you see.
exercise. You got to change the how fast you walk, hills, whatever it is. So you have,
You
what
do
is it,
the
the
same
6 month?
workout every day the same way.
Right.
Eventually, after maybe 3 months, that workout's not doing much for
It's
you. You
nothing.
have to change it.
Right.
You get
So
stronger.
so
You
your
get more
body,
resilient.
you have a what, a 6 month program for people, right?
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
in that, do you have an actual 7-day fast?
it,
Maybe you shouldn't say
it,
that
it,
yet.
it depends. It depends. Yes, the pinnacle can be up to a 7-day fast,
Mm-hmm.
but
Cool.
that's not on day one.
Mm-hmm.
That's about 13 weeks, 14 weeks into the program. You have to
Right.
work your way through that, and then you have to work your way out of that.
Mm-hmm.
The goal is to become metabolically flexible so that you can go in and out of this repair and fed state with ease within the same day. You can turn on autophagy during the day, at night while you sleep, and you can be in that repair healing phase as much as possible. And you can go through fasting without a problem. All the war stories, they're not doing it right. Most of what people feel as a negative side effect or
Right.
symptom of fasting has nothing to do with the fasting. It's a few things. One, it's a detox reaction. As soon as you stop eating, you go into that detoxification and recycling phase, it stirs stuff up. And it can make you feel yucky if you weren't ready for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like a hangover. You drink a
Right.
bunch of alcohol, it hits your system, you feel it the
Is
next
that a
day.
liver? Is that a liver thing?
What's that?
Is that when you feel lousy in a fast? My assumption, what it was the liver backing up. Too
The
many
tipping
toxins.
point thing? Is it because not just the liver, our skin's our number one detoxification organ.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that gets backed up first.
Mm.
Most people have a problem, and the main reason is because we don't sweat, right? We
Mm.
don't. Our sweat mechanism is terrible, right? So we use heat acclimation and variations in a program as well to prime that pump. That's the
Mm-hmm.
most overlooked, largest metabolic organ in our body,
Mm.
skin. It's very significant. That's a whole nother discussion. We can talk
Mm-hmm.
about that.
Right.
But what happens is you start to feel it. You weren't ready for it, bottom line,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's not, it's like if I wanted to run a 10K tomorrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
I could probably get through it. It would be terrible. My time would be terrible, and I'll be hurting for a couple of weeks after. I'm not ready for it. But if I
Mm-hmm.
train for a few months, 6 months, I could do one. I'd be okay, right? Same thing with this. If someone says, I'm going to do a 3-day fast starting this weekend, who's with me on Facebook or on Instagram? People jump in and they just go, good luck. That's going to be
Right.
hard, right? But if you
Mm-hmm.
do it right, people are amazed. They start my program, especially the spouses, they'll tell me the men, their wife wants to do it. They get together, they do it together. They say, no way in heck I can fast. I can't. You're crazy. You don't know me. He's like, I can't go a day, I can't go a meal, wants to bet me money that they can't do this. Get them to do it. After they get through the pinnacle and they're going the backside, they got their metabolic flexibility. You know what they're talking to me about? They're saying, hey, doc, I know we're supposed to be eating according to the plan regularly now, but in any way I can just keep fasting. They don't want to eat. The person who was swearing they couldn't do this, now they don't want to eat because they feel better when they don't. And it's not about food or liking food. People say that all the time. I don't fast because I like food too much. Oh, wow. Really? You like food? I like food. I haven't met anybody who doesn't like food, right? That's a silly response. And it doesn't make you dislike food, but it gives you control. It gives you a freedom that most Americans who are very proud of their freedom will never experience. A freedom from hunger and a freedom from the bindings of food.
Yeah, the bondage of food. We can be a slave to food. Food is a tool that we use, but when it becomes about, when you actually want to get together with friends and you're more excited about the food, to me, the people are the food. You should be dining on their intellect and their love and their emotions and the enjoyment of being with people. And the food is secondary. And I find that fasting beautifully devalues food. You lose that addiction to food, right? That addiction to feeling full.
It's our addiction pathway. It's that addiction is natural. It saved our species, kept it alive. Think about it. If we were in nature and we weren't modern society as a species, and every time we skipped a meal, we got shaky, we got headaches, got lightheaded, and our energy faded, we'd be extinct.
Mm-hmm.
The opposite happens in a healthy body. Your mind wakes up, it gets alert. You can measure the chemistry, right? Your energy goes up. It's like your body's saying, okay, you haven't eaten for a while. Let's go get you some food, get you ready, right? If it was the other way around, we'd be dead. There'd be no chance.
And what you're
right?
saying is and I love that word, metabolically flexible. The ability to be hungry, to be full, to be satisfied, and our body is ready for it, right? Because if you don't have food, your body, you're right, you should be have a keen awareness, right? Go gather food, go hunt and kill something, right? And here's the energy and the acuity to do it.
Yeah, if our mental capacity broke down that fast, we wouldn't be able to do anything, and it doesn't happen.
Right.
We are meant to go through feast and famine. Diabetes, insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome are natural, normal states of the body for short periods of time to serve a purpose. We can't live in that state. Very important. Not all other, but a lot of other species go through metabolic syndrome and diabetes and insulin resistance. Bears do it before they hibernate. Birds do it before they migrate. Fish do it before they go dormant off season. All sorts of different creatures do it. But the difference is they do it for a reason. We do it and we don't hibernate. We don't go migrate. We don't go dormant. We don't have big activity to use it up. We stay in that state and it breaks us down and kills us. Right. So we're activating a natural state. That's what got us through winters. That's why we have an addiction pathway to fructose. Fructose is the addiction pathway, right? Fructose is 2.5 times sweeter than any other sugar out there. When we eat it, you won't get hungry. You won't get full. It'll stop you from feeling full. It turns off our satiation hormones and it turns on our hunger hormones. So you eat it, you get hungrier and you won't get full. Bad combo, right? So basically your body's saying, fruit, eat all you can right now and don't stop. That pathway, there's only one pathway for it. No cell requires it. No biological function in our body requires fructose. It follows this pathway to put on fat. It's our fat storage pathway. Want more? It puts on fat, starts in our liver, and then it puts it on our body. It got us fat, so we got through the winter when there wasn't much food. Bears put on all that weight eating berries, not salmon, eating berries, eating fruit from fructose. That's how they get fat to hibernate, where they live off that fat for the winter.
Interesting. I'm thrilled.
That's how the fish do it when they go dormant.
I'm ready for another fast.
It's all from fructose. Fructose is our fat storage mechanism. And alcohol is that same pathway. Alcohol and fructose are the exact same in your body with the same consequences minus the buzz. When you ferment fructose, sugar from fruit, plants, whatever, whether it's from barley or from potatoes, when you ferment it, it changes it enough that it can go through your blood-brain barrier and get you drunk. Other than that, it's exactly the same. That's why non-alcoholic fatty liver is number one disease of the liver in the world, and it's called non-alcoholic because it's the same disease except in someone who doesn't drink, because we
Right.
used to only see it in alcoholics.
Right. And
Same pathway.
when we fast, basically our body starts breaking these things down, right? So, that fatty liver, which a large amount of our population in America has, that fatty liver
88%.
changes
Yeah.
when we fast, right? And then there's another cascade of things that happen, right?
The body's very smart, and it breaks down certain things first. The first thing that it breaks down is fat in places it's not supposed to be, or that's dangerous. And
Smart.
that's the liver fat.
Mm,
That's pancreatic fat. A 300-pound diabetic has to lose weight to become non-diabetic. Do you know how much weight they have to lose, Doc?
no.
I asked this at medical, chiropractic, nutritional conferences.
Really? It's
People say
not off their
5 pounds.
abs. That's where I want it, right?
That's where we can talk about that. It's a different story. That's not dangerous. We don't like to look at it, but the fat I'm talking about will kill you,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they have to lose. There's a finite number. It's not a percentage. It's 1 gram. That's it. 300-pound diabetic loses 1 gram of fat, and they're no longer diabetic, even though they're 300 pounds.
Wow.
Because that weight on their body is not what's killing them. It's the 1 fat, but 1 gram of fat. It has to come out of their pancreas.
Mm.
That's where it is, and that 1 gram is enough to mess up that 90-gram organ that it makes all this dysfunction.
Mm.
So the body will go after that fat first. Take it out of the pancreas. Take it out of the liver so we can detoxify and we can recycle better, because we can go through this process. And then there's fat in other places like our muscle. We like it when we eat a steak, right? You like marbling in your steak, tastes good, but you don't want that in your muscle in your body. That's disease. That's trouble. So you get it out of the muscle. Then another place it forms is in our brain in the form of plaquing. Okay? Plaquing causes Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. You can eliminate that plaque or prevent it from forming by fasting, because it breaks it down and never lets it form.
Wonderful.
In the brain, that's why they call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. It was coined about 15 years ago, and it's true. It's an insulin issue. It's insulin resistance of the brain. Alzheimer's. The number one fear our seniors have in their life, even beyond dying, is Alzheimer's, because they lose themselves. And it doesn't have to happen. It's not genetic. It's environmental, because those plaques form and they mess everything up.
Have you
Fasting
had
breaks them down.
have you had anyone in your program that had like dementia or Alzheimer's or something like that? I mean, I know my brain works way better with fasting, but I don't know that I'm getting rid of plaquing in my brain or anything like that.
They measure. There's great studies on it. You can see it. There's dementia cases that have changed. There's senior moments that get reported all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That if you document them, those are subjective. They're hard to establish. Plaquing can change, but we know it breaks down because there's an enzyme in our brain called insulin degradation enzyme. It's the enzyme that breaks down insulin. We called it that because when we discovered it, we saw it broke down insulin and said, that's what it does. Years later, they realized that's only one thing that it does. The other thing it does is it breaks down plaque in our brain, but it can only do one or the other at a time. So if you're in a constant fed state, eating over a 15-hour window, like the majority of Americans do throughout the day, stuck in that fed state with insulin going rampant, what is that enzyme going to focus on? Breaking down insulin. What's it not focusing on? The buildup of plaque in our brain. And that's what lets it go out of hand. You start fasting, you drop the insulin. It's like, hey, I don't have to do insulin anymore. It starts breaking down the plaque. That's how it works. It does it all over the body. So the first thing to come out are the fats that aren't supposed to be there: liver fat, organ fat, muscle fat, scar tissue in the brain, and then scar tissue in your body. When we go through something like a spinal surgery, shoulder surgery, knee surgery, it's major trauma, cutting it open, changing things up. And the body will lay down scar tissue like crazy, and it overdoes it. That's what we've always been taught. The body puts down this erratic overproduction of scar tissue.
Right.
And I always thought, why? Why would it do that? It's smarter than this. Because it knows that in a natural state, we'll go through a repair stage of fasting and break down what we don't need. But we as a culture do not. So it stays there and it builds up. and it builds up. So what we see is when people fast, especially on a rotation over time, they break down that scar tissue in their joints from the surgery. They get mobility back, the pain goes down. It actually improves all of that.
Mm.
So the body prioritizes. And then after scar tissue, it moves into body fat. And body fat can come off really quick. As you lose body fat, you lose fluid, you lose different chemicals, you lose different toxins that are being stored. All sorts of stuff happens. And it has to happen because it's wrecking our system. And then you can start burning body fat. So it's a priority based system. And then when you do it on and off, like truly intermittent fasting or on a rotation, you don't build up that plaque again. You don't build up that fat in your liver and organs again, or muscle, and you don't build that stuff up, and the scar tissue doesn't come back. So when you start to lose after that, all you're losing is body fat.
Right. Right. I'd never
Your
heard that about
percentage of
the
body
scar
fat goes
tissue.
up. Yeah, your percentage of body fat burning goes up or stays the same, but your weight loss slows down.
Mm-hmm.
So people think they're plateauing or it's not working when it is. It is. It's getting more efficient, and all that junk and stuff that was holding you back and adding the pounds is gone. It's
Mm.
supposed to go down. And
Mm.
now you're burning pure fat. But people get frustrated because of that number. They stop and then they go back to their ways and they put it back. And it
Mm-hmm.
comes back more than they had before. That's called the yo-yo diet, right? It's trouble.
Oh yeah, it is trouble. So I didn't know that about the scar tissue. I use extracorporeal shockwave therapy in my office, and I break up scar tissue with people every day. It's incredible. But I
You can
never,
break it up, but where's it going to go? How's it going to get out? If
right,
you don't get in the recycling autophagy phase, it'll settle somewhere,
right. If they're
right?
eating constantly, it's not going to they're not going to get rid of it.
Can't.
So,
Yeah, you can't be in both states at the same time.
mm,
Either in, it's you can break down, but remember the biomass, where's it going to go? What's it going to do? What else is going to happen with it? You want that out. You need that out to be able to get the new in to become stronger, younger, the whole 9 yards.
right, right. That whole thing we've been taught. Okay, eat, 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 eat. It's good for you. Keep eating. Your body can. No, let it go. Let it repair. Then eat. It's incredible. I
Yeah.
am so
We
thrilled
want
about fasting. You've opened my mind immensely. It's
Well, it's those two parts of the cycle. They're 100% vital, both of them, the fed and the repair, but they're not 50-50 partners. You want to be a little bit of fed, lots of repair. Okay, a little bit of fed, lots of repair.
mm-hmm,
You want to be in a little bit of growth, lots of repair. You want to be in a little bit of sympathetic stress and lots of repair and parasympathetic. They're the same thing.
mm-hmm,
You want it to be cyclic. You want
mm-hmm,
hormones. Hormones are powerful. You want them to whisper, not scream. It's
mm-hmm.
not about the number. It's about the efficiency. You want them to work right. You want a little to go a long way. And it can't do that if it's constantly in a fed state, constantly have all these distractions. They start to scream. Numbers go all over the place. And it all comes back to insulin resistance, being stuck in the fed state.
Mm. So I've sent people to you, and I'm thrilled they're doing great. And I would like to send more people to you. How can people get a hold of you and be a part of this and change their lives in such an amazing way?
I have content that'll keep you busy for years if you want free content. Absolutely. You should go to my personal Facebook page, Don Clum. You can go to my group, Insulin Friendly Fasting Secrets. I have an archive in there of over 900 posts, both articles I've written, interviews like this that I've recorded, infographics, challenges, workouts, eating plans, recipe books, all sorts of stuff in there, all about all this stuff. Keep you busy for years. And I
I
put more in
think
every day.
I think your knowledge is amazing, and your library is incredible. I think most of us need what you actually provide when someone signs up with you, which is some really good hand holding and a very clear and concise strategy. Someone can get the mile high view of where they're going with their health, their diet, etc. And I'm thrilled. I hope people actually will sign up with you and change their lives. I've got some people. This one woman, she lost 100 pounds with me, and then she started gaining back. And I just said, you know what? You've got to call Dr. Don Clum. And she's loving it. She's loving it. It's wonderful. So they can get a hold of you on Facebook. And then also,
Message me directly, or they can find my website at insulinfriendlyliving.com.
great. And then
Insulin Friendly Living.
insulinfriendlyliving.com. And then also, we had 4 phases of the fasting cycle. We're going to give that away. There'll be a link down below, so you can start your fasting. I mean, it's the world of fasting is incredible. You will empower yourself on such a next level, and a bizarre level. All of a sudden, food, you'll be sitting down at a table, and all of a sudden that bread will come at that restaurant, and you'll just say, no, thank you. Because it's,
Exactly. You're not driven by that. It
yeah,
removes the charge. This is very important because it's not that you don't like food anymore. You can start eating based on curiosity. We call it curiosity eating. Wow,
curiosity.
that looks good. I'd like to try it. You try it and you're good with that. 1 bite, 2 bites, you don't have to have the whole piece. You don't have
Guilty.
to have the whole pie. You don't have to have the second pie. That anyone who's had problems with food like that, the addictive pathway going, carb addiction and so on, they know that's real. The food blackout, where did this empty bag of chips come from?
Right.
It's people joke about it, but it happens. Just like an alcoholic going into blackout, just like a drug addict who will do things that they would never do when they're not in that state because of it. It's the same pathway. It's the same chemistry going on,
The
and it is
opposite.
powerful.
Yeah, it's not
Once you turn
mindful at
that
all.
down and off, you
Well,
can recover.
thank you so much. And I got to have you on again. Your knowledge is so vast. I want you on again. So thank you so much for being here. I'm Dr. Adam Fields. This is Health and Care. Make sure you listen to Dr. Don Clum's for our first talk, and I'm sure we're going to have more. Thank you for being here. Go fast.